Hi there, and welcome to the 2 Minute Training. Today, I want to talk about salary negotiations. Salary is something that is a challenging topic to talk about during the interview process. In fact, you should not talk about salary at all in the interview process until you get to an offer. But oftentimes, those questions come up in applications or they come up during the interview. With the salary bans that are being enacted across the country, employers are slowly not asking that question anymore because the law prohibits them, the act prohibits them from being able to inquire about previous salary information in order for you not to be negotiating against yourself or to expand upon the equity gap that happens right now in this country. So, but if you do get a question around salary during the interview process, and employers ask because they want to know should they continue on with you or should they move on to a candidate who they can actually afford. So, there's a reason they want to know. But the most leverage you will have in the negotiation process during this process is holding on to that information about your dollar amount. You don't want them to count you out too soon, or you don't want them to think, oh, well, whatever we offer would be fine. So there's a lot that goes into this process. And when you get to this process, I would love to be able to help you and coach you through the entire interview process, including the salary negotiation. But when you get asked a question, you want to engage the salary dodge 3 step, or what I sometimes affectionately call the Dr. Dre, because I'm a doctor, which is dodge, respond, and ask, right? So you want to dodge the question, but you want to respond to the underlying question they're really asking, which is they're trying to get information about your salary. And then you want to ask them a deflecting question, something that's going to change the subject. It kind of looks like this. An employer will ask you, so tell me about, how much you make right now, or what do you expect to make within this position? And you can say something like, well, I think it's a little bit too early in the process to talk about salary. I'm still learning about the position and knowing what you're looking for. In fact, I would love to know why this position is open and what are some of the challenges that you think would really be impacting this particular role and position, right? That's just one example. So hopefully you see how I was able to respond to all three of the questions in the process, right? I dodged it by saying it's a little bit too early to talk about this in the process. And then I said that, I'm still learning about the position, right? So I was able to kind of respond to what they were saying, but then to ask a different question to take them into a different place by saying, tell me a little bit more about the challenges and why the position is open. And it happens that quickly. There should be not a breath between the 3 steps. And you want to practice as much as you can so it rolls off very naturally. Now, sometimes that doesn't work. And even though you do deflect, the employer will come back or the interviewer will come back and say something like, well, okay, I answered that question, but really, I really need to know what the salary is. Like, can you really tell me what you make? And you can talk about the salary band, you can talk about a lot of things, but if they continue to ask you, what I say is to say something like, this is the third time you asked me about the salary requirements. Are you concerned that you're not paying market wages for this particular position? Right? So again, you are answering the question, you're dodging the question, and you're putting it back in their lap. The rule of thumb in an interview is that any question asked must be answered. So you want to answer it, but you want to put it back on them. Usually they'll say, no, we're not worried about that. And you can say, great, I didn't think so. And I have no concerns over what I've learned thus far. There's going to be any problem, with us being able to meet salary requirements. So what I would really love to ask you about is, the culture of the organization. Tell me about the environment and how do you handle remote work or flexible work schedules? Right? So you continue the conversation, right? And you don't get defensive, you don't get aggressive, but you let them know that this is not a conversation we're going to have. Or you can let them know it's private information that I don't like to release or something of that nature. So that's another way to deflect if you're continually being asked. Now, sometimes the rubber meets the road and you have to give a number. And if you get to a situation where you absolutely have to give a number, and listen, you want to go through all of this before you get there, you still don't want to give a number, but instead you want to give a really broad range. Think about what you made from the time you started in your career to your highest salary, and that's what you tell them. So you can respond by saying something like, well, actually, over the course of my career, my salary has ranged anywhere from 175,000 to 350,000. And so I'm looking to, You don't even have to say I'm looking to stay in that range, but you could just say, well, over the course of my career, my salary has ranged from 175,000 to 350,000. So what I'm really curious about is, tell me about the culture of the organization and your environment. How are your diversity issues? How are you responding to promoting women into higher levels of leadership? How are you handling all of the mental health challenges that have come up through COVID, right? You want to deflect. So you answer the question, but you don't want to spend a lot of time on the dollar amount. You want to continue to move on. So it gives them a range. They don't know where you are in that range, right? So, and you want to include everything, including stock options, bonuses, pay increases you're anticipating, to get that range of number, what you started with and where you are, to give them a huge range you don't want to be locked into. The wider the range, the better. You can say anything from 100,000 to 500,000 I've made over the course of my career. So it lets them know, listen, I've been all over the place. More than likely that higher number is where I'm closer to right now, or somewhere in between, but it's not something that you really want to get into. But that's a last absolute result. Practice the Dodge 3-step, practice, practice, practice. So it rolls off your tongue. It feels very natural, not conversational. This is how you take control, how you maintain leverage when you're doing salary negotiations. Download the worksheet, practice it. And when you come to this place of salary negotiation, let's make sure we're having those conversations and you're getting the coaching you need. Take care.